Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And get this, I'm about to make a Skyrim video. I know, what a surprise, but it's just such a massive game, these opportunities are too irresistible. Skyrim isn't just vast in terms of size, however, as it also offers a rich variety of things to do. So many that well over half a decade later, you may still not have known about some of them. So today we'll be taking a look at 5 more things you probably didn't know you could do in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Part 9! I'm pretty confident about that number today. Starting off, shortly after expressing interest in joining the companions to Kodlak Whitemane, the guild's de facto leader, he'll order a member named Vilkas to take you out into the courtyard and test your skills in combat. Vilkas will begrudgingly obey, and he'll draw his sword and demand the Dragonborn do battle once the two of you are in the courtyard. Generally, the ensuing fight won't be a particularly difficult one, as he's not actually interested in hurting you, just wants to see where you stand. So after the two of you exchange a few blows, Vilkas will stop, and even compliment the player. But, should you decide to use magic in this engagement, rather than a traditional melee weapon, Vilkas will immediately pause the fight, and criticize you for cowardice, saying that a companion should never fight that way, and will refuse to continue with the player until you've drawn a more physical weapon. So, admittedly, this one is less about what you can do, and more about what you can't. At least, that is if you want to advance in one of Skyrim's most prestigious organizations, that is. Next on our list, during the quest to kill an empire, the Dragonborn finally begins to execute on the Dark Brotherhood's long-awaited mission to assassinate Emperor Titus II. With him visiting Solitude in mourning of his recently passed cousin, the player is sent to pose as a famous personal chef, and from there, discreetly poison the Emperor's meal, killing him and fulfilling the greatest contract the guild's received in hundreds of years. At least, well, that was the plan. Ultimately, while you do succeed in killing who you think is Titus Mede, it's later revealed that this was all an elaborate setup by Commander Morrow, leader of the Emperor's personal bodyguard, to get you alone, and the man you killed was actually just a worthless decoy. But for now, that's neither here nor there. When first beginning the quest, Astrid will give you a unique ingredient, called Jarrin Root, to use to poison the Emperor's stew, and send you off to Solitude with some forged documents. Jarrin Root is an extremely poisonous plant, with its origins all the way in Stros Mackay, and Astrid claims that even the slightest taste could kill a man instantly. Now, here's the interesting thing though. When Astrid gives you the plant, it'll be classified as an ingredient, and not as a quest item, meaning you can eat, sell, or drop it freely. That said, this is quite literally the only obtainable Jarrin Root in the game, so be a bit careful. But if it's not a quest item, what happens if you lose the Jarrin Root? Don't you need it to progress in the quest, I hear you ask? Well, no, not at all. You see, when you arrive in Solitude, you'll be sent to meet with a fellow lesser chef, whom you'll give instructions on what to put in the stew. And right before it's been completed, you'll be given a dialogue option to ask her to add in the Jarrin Root plant into the dish. She, of course, has no clue of its poisonous potential. Now, while pretty much all of us probably went along with this, you don't actually have to add the plant into the stew. If you do choose to do so, once the dish is given to the Imperial decoy, he'll die pretty quickly. But if you simply opted to not put the Jarrin Root into the food, he'll just eat it normally, and then the decoy will sit there idly for an indefinite period of time, forcing you to kill him with your bare hands in order to progress. This will allow you to keep the Jarrin Root for yourself if you haven't already decided to do so. It'll have a primary effect of dealing 500 poison damage when consumed, more than double of any other item in the game. It's insane. But of course, that isn't even the beginning of this item's potential. You can mix it with other health-damaging ingredients to create some insanely lethal poisons with literally thousands of damage, turning even the simplest bow and arrow into an absolute killing machine. So, ladies and gentlemen, perhaps you should just kill the decoy the old-fashioned way and keep that plant for you. Coming at number 3, we have a bit of a quickie, but beehives are the illustrious dwellings of Skyrim's striped stinger-armed friends, much like they are in the real world. When looted, they will typically contain bees, beehive husks, and honeycombs, for little to no effort at all. There's just one problem. Some beehives are up a little bit high, or hard to get to, requiring some gymnastics or jumping skills that one may not always be in the mood to exercise. So what now? Well, did you know, the player can simply shoot beehives down with a bow and arrow. Hitting a hive with such a dart will cause it to seamlessly drop to the ground, and become slightly more accessible to the player. Likewise, shouts will accomplish the same thing. Hopefully this one's new to you. And sorry about the bee puns. I'll buzz off. For 4th spot, speaking of woodland critters, oftentimes due to the skittish nature of Skyrim's fauna, hunting can be a bit of a hassle. Deer, elk, and rabbits often flee with speed and terror at the slightest movement, making them difficult targets for even the most skilled of archers. And even more of a hassle if you're planning on using melee weapons. Well, there's indeed a pretty clever way to get around this, and in fact cause the animals to come to you. This is all in thanks to the Courage spell, which just so happens to work on non-humanoid actors. The Courage spell, of course, prevents targets from fleeing for 60 seconds, and then offers some additional health and stamina to whoever it's casted upon. Now, clearly this was meant for use on allies and the like, but should the player use a spell on such a fearful animal, they'll come to you, and believe it or not, even try to attack the Dragonborn. Now, this may come as a surprise, but bunnies aren't exactly in the best position to win a fight with a literal dragon godman. So you shouldn't have too much to worry about in that respect. Anyway, I hope this makes it slightly easier next time you're looking to murder Bambi's parents to death. And finally, last on our list, the Dragonborn can incite some of the most entertaining street riots imaginable. Should the Dovahkiin drop an item of value in an area nearby 2 or more NPCs with a negative disposition towards each other, there's a small chance that a Radiant World encounter will be triggered, in which the characters begin arguing with each other over who gets to claim whatever item it is that the player dropped. Eventually, this verbal argument will escalate to an all-out battle in the streets over rights, oftentimes with weapons drawn and in use. Occasionally, some characters will even be killed in the ensuing conflict, though thankfully others will be protected by their essential status. After a few moments, tensions will have cooled, and business will resume as usual, though often in the wake of quite a few corpses. It seems nearby Riften's marketplace is the best area to begin dropping your valuables if you're hoping to witness such a spectacle. This seems to be due to a high volume of characters in Riften that really just don't like each other. Now, do keep in mind, you might lose a few good NPCs, but it's always well worth the ensuing show. And with that investment advice, we are going to wrap up 5 more things you probably didn't know you could do in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Part 9. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Which of what was featured on today's list did you find to be the most interesting, and what are you most excited to try for yourself? What niche things do you know how to do that I've yet to cover? Leave a comment down below. As always, thanks for stopping by, everyone. Like ratings are very much appreciated, and hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.